Imagine this. You live in a quiet neighborhood where everyone knows each other. Every morning you see your neighbor, a friendly, approachable guy. Maybe you've even chatted with him about the weather or how busy work is. He's a well-respected architect, a family man. But one day the news breaks that this same neighbor has been arrested, not for something minor, but for being the alleged mastermind behind one of the most chilling serial killer cases in recent history, the Gilgo Beach murders. It's a story that's been haunting Long Island for over a decade. Multiple bodies discovered along a desolate stretch of beach, most of them women who had vanished without a trace. For years, the case went cold, with no solid leads and a growing sense of fear in the community. And now, just when everyone had almost given up hope, a stunning arrest has been made. The man behind the horror is none other than Rex Heuermann, someone who blended so perfectly into society that no one ever suspected a thing. This arrest has sent shockwaves not just through his neighborhood but across the entire country. How could someone so ordinary be capable of such extraordinary evil? In this video, we're diving deep into the twisted tale of Rex Heuermann and the Gilgo Beach murders, unraveling the mystery, the investigation, and what comes next in this shocking case. Buckle up, because this is one story you won't be able to forget. In December 2010, everything started with the search for a missing woman named Shannon Gilbert. She was a young escort who had called 911, terrified and disoriented, claiming that someone was after her. The police began searching the area around Gilgo Beach on Long Island, hoping to find any trace of her. But what they found instead was something far more horrifying. As the search progressed, the police stumbled upon human remains. At first, it was just one body, but as they continued to comb through the area, more remains began to surface. It became clear that this was no isolated incident. They were dealing with a potential serial killer. Over the next few months, the remains of 4 women were discovered, all wrapped in burlap sacks, adding a disturbing and methodical element to the crime. These women were identified as Melissa Bartholomew, Maureen Brainard Barnes, Megan Waterman, and Amber Lynn Costello. Each had been reported missing years earlier, and like Shannon Gilbert, they were all sex workers. The discovery of their bodies, along with others that would be found in the months that followed, painted a grim picture of what had been happening along this stretch of beach. In total, between 10 and 16 bodies were discovered, raising the stakes of the investigation and intensifying the urgency to catch whoever was responsible. As word of the discoveries spread, the media descended on Gilgo Beach, turning the area into a focal point for the nation's growing obsession with true crime. Headlines screamed of a Long Island serial killer, and the fear in the community was palpable. The media played a significant role in keeping the story alive, fueling speculation and fear with every new detail that emerged. The public was gripped by the horror of it all, ordinary people suddenly wondering if the killer was someone they knew, someone they passed on the street every day. The intense media coverage not only kept the story in the public eye, but also put immense pressure on law enforcement to find the person responsible. The discovery of the bodies and the media frenzy that followed marked the beginning of a long, winding road in the search for justice, a search that would finally lead to Rex Heuermann years later. These women weren't just names in the news, they had lives, dreams, and families who loved them. Take Melissa Bartholomew, for example. She was just 24 years old, originally from Buffalo, New York. Melissa moved to New York City, hoping to make a better life for herself. But like many, she found the city unforgiving. She turned to sex work as a means of survival. Despite the dangers, she was doing her best to make it through each day. Her family remembers her as a vibrant young woman, someone who lit up a room, and their heartbreak when she went missing was unimaginable. Maureen Brainard Barnes was another young woman with a story that's all too familiar. A single mother from Connecticut, Maureen was struggling to make ends meet. She had 2 children to care for and bills piling up. Out of desperation, she turned to escort work. Maureen was last seen alive in New York City in 2007, and her disappearance left her family devastated, fighting for answers for years. Megan Waterman was only 22 when she vanished. A mother herself, Megan was trying to provide for her young daughter. She was last seen at a hotel in Hauppauge, New York in June 2010. Megan's story is one of lost potential, a young mother trying to build a future for her child only to have her life cut tragically short. Amber Lynn Costello, at 27, was the youngest of four siblings and grew up in North Carolina. Her life took a turn after a battle with addiction. Like the others, she turned to sex work as a way to cope and survive. Amber was last seen in September 2010, and her disappearance left her sister, who had always been close to her, with a hole in her heart that can never be filled. Their families were devastated, but they never gave up. Each of these women had people who loved them, who searched tirelessly, and who fought for years to bring attention to their cases. Their families organized vigils, spoke to the media, and kept pushing law enforcement to keep investigating. They refused to let their loved ones be forgotten, even when the case seemed hopeless. The pain these families endured is unimaginable, but their resilience and determination kept the case alive and brought us to where we are today. The Gilgo Beach investigation was anything but straightforward. From the beginning, law enforcement faced a maze of challenges that made it nearly impossible to piece the puzzle together. One of the biggest hurdles was the jurisdictional mess. The bodies were found across different areas involving multiple law enforcement agencies, each with its own protocols and priorities. Coordinating between these agencies was a nightmare, leading to delays and miscommunications that slowed down the investigation. Adding to the complexity was the difficulty in connecting the murders. The victims were all found in the same general area, but linking them definitively to a single killer proved elusive. The bodies had been there for years, and the harsh conditions along the beach had destroyed much of the physical evidence. With no clear connections between the victims besides their profession and little to no forensic evidence, the case went cold multiple times. This lack of progress frustrated the families and the public, leading to growing distrust in law enforcement's ability to solve the case. Over the years, various theories and suspects surfaced. Some investigators suspected that there could be police corruption involved, especially given the strange behavior of some officers early in the investigation. Others theorized that the killings were connected to organized crime, possibly involving sex trafficking rings. There was even speculation that another serial killer could be involved, as the timeline and methods didn't always match up neatly. Each theory brought new suspects and new dead ends, adding layers of complexity to an already convoluted case. Throughout it all, the media played a critical role in keeping the case alive. The grisly nature of the crimes, combined with the mystery of the Long Island serial killer, made it a perfect storm for true crime enthusiasts. Documentaries, podcasts, and books kept the public's interest burning even as the investigation stalled. This constant spotlight added immense pressure on law enforcement to find the killer, pushing them to re examine old evidence and explore new leads. The public's fascination with the case never waned, and it was this relentless attention that helped keep the investigation from fading into obscurity. In the end, the combination of public pressure and advancements in forensic technology finally led to the breakthrough that brought Rex Heuermann into the spotlight, marking a turning point in one of the most perplexing serial killer cases in modern history. Rex Heuermann's arrest in July 2024 was a shock that reverberated across the country, marking a major breakthrough in the Gilgo Beach murder case after more than a decade of dead ends and frustration. The arrest came after years of dogged investigation, and it was a combination of new forensic technology and old-fashioned detective work that finally led authorities to Heuermann. In the months leading up to the arrest, investigators revisited the case with fresh eyes, focusing on new evidence that had surfaced over the years. They re examined old leads, sifted through mountains of data, and conducted new forensic tests. Then, in July 2024, the pieces finally fell into place. The authorities had enough evidence to arrest Rex Heuermann, a 59-year-old architect living in Massapequa Park, Long Island, just a short drive from where the bodies were discovered. Rex Heuermann was the last person anyone would have suspected. He was a successful architect running his own firm in New York City, and he lived a seemingly normal life in the suburbs. He had a wife and two children, and his neighbors described him as quiet and unremarkable, just another guy trying to make a living. But beneath that ordinary exterior, Heuermann was allegedly hiding a dark secret. For years, he managed to evade suspicion, living his life while investigators searched for the killer. It was precisely this normality that allowed him to fly under the radar for so long. The breakthrough in the case came down to a few critical pieces of evidence. DNA evidence played a key role. Advancements in forensic science allowed investigators to retest old samples with new technology, leading to a match that had previously eluded them. Cell phone records were another crucial piece of the puzzle. Investigators were able to place Heuermann in the vicinity of the victims at critical times, painting a damning picture of his movements. In addition to these, there were other forensic breakthroughs, including the discovery of items linked to the victims that were traced back to Heuermann. Each new piece of evidence brought investigators closer to building an airtight case, and by July 2024, they had enough to make the arrest. The arrest of Rex Heuermann marked a turning point in the Gilgo Beach case, finally offering a sense of closure to the victims' families and the community. But as the investigation continues, more details are sure to emerge, revealing just how close Heuermann came to getting away with it all. When news of Rex Heuermann's arrest broke, it sent shockwaves through his community. Neighbors who had always seen him as just another resident were stunned. The idea that someone so seemingly ordinary could be behind such heinous crimes shattered the sense of security in the neighborhood. People who had lived alongside him for years suddenly found themselves questioning everything they thought they knew about their community. Colleagues who worked with Heuermann in his architectural firm were equally shocked. Many couldn't reconcile the man they knew with the horrific crimes he's accused of committing. The arrest has left a lasting impact, creating a palpable sense of unease and mistrust within the community. For the families of the victims, the arrest brought a mix of emotions. On one hand, there was relief. Finally, after more than a decade of pain and uncertainty, the person responsible for their loved ones' deaths had been caught. But alongside that relief was a deep, lingering sadness. While the arrest marked a significant step toward justice, it couldn't bring back their loved ones or erase the years of suffering they'd endured. The families have expressed their gratitude to law enforcement for not giving up on the case, but their quest for closure is far from over. They are now preparing for the next chapter, watching the legal process unfold and hoping that it will bring some measure of peace. Since his arrest, Rex Heuermann has faced multiple charges, including murder. The legal process is still in its early stages, with court appearances that have drawn significant media attention. As the case moves forward, it's expected that more evidence will come to light, potentially linking Heuermann to other crimes. The trial will likely be long and complex, with both the prosecution and defense meticulously laying out their cases. For the victims' families and the public, the trial represents a critical step toward achieving justice, but it also prolongs the emotional toll of reliving the horrors of the past decade. The arrest of Rex Heuermann highlights a chilling reality. Sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones who seem the most ordinary. Heuermann lived a double life, hiding his dark side behind the facade of a respectable career and family life. This case raises unsettling questions about how well we truly know the people around us. It serves as a stark reminder that evil doesn't always present itself in obvious ways, and that those who commit horrific acts can often blend seamlessly into society. The Gilgo Beach case also sheds light on the evolving nature of serial killers in the modern age. Unlike the high profile killers of the past, who often sought notoriety, Heuermann allegedly managed to evade capture for years by living a life of anonymity. The advancements in forensic science, particularly DNA analysis, played a crucial role in finally identifying him as a suspect. This case illustrates how technology is making it increasingly difficult for such criminals to remain undetected, but it also shows that there are still gaps in the system that need to be addressed. Throughout the investigation, the media played a significant role in shaping public perception of the Gilgo Beach murders. The case became a media sensation, with true crime documentaries, podcasts, and news coverage keeping it in the public eye. This constant attention helped ensure that the case wasn't forgotten, but it also influenced how the public viewed both the victims and the investigation. The media's portrayal of the victims, many of whom were sex workers, often highlighted the stigma they faced while also fueling the public's fascination with the case. The Gilgo Beach murders are a stark example of how media coverage can both help and hinder the pursuit of justice, shaping the narrative in ways that resonate with the public long after the headlines fade. As Rex Heuermann faces the legal system, several potential outcomes are on the horizon. If convicted, Heuermann could be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, given the severity of the charges. A conviction would not only bring a sense of justice to the victims' families, but also mark a significant milestone in one of the most notorious serial killer cases in recent history. However, the defense will likely mount a strong case, and the trial could uncover new details that either strengthen or weaken the prosecution's arguments. The legal battle ahead is sure to be long and complex, with each side presenting a meticulously crafted narrative to sway the jury. Despite the arrest, many questions remain unanswered. One of the most pressing is whether there are more victims yet to be discovered. Given the pattern of the killings and the number of bodies already found, it's possible that Heuermann could be connected to other unsolved cases. Additionally, the question of whether Heuermann acted alone or had accomplices lingers. Was there someone helping him, or was he able to carry out these crimes entirely on his own? And finally, what other secrets might Heuermann be hiding? The investigation may reveal more about his double life and any other crimes he might have committed. Even with Heuermann behind bars, the investigation is far from over. Law enforcement continues to follow up on new leads and revisit old evidence to ensure that all aspects of the case are thoroughly explored. They are also likely to keep looking into any other potential victims, especially given the possibility that Heuermann's criminal activities could extend beyond the Gilgo Beach murders. The goal is to bring closure to all the families affected by this case, and that means leaving no stone unturned in the search for the full truth. Looking back, we've covered the chilling journey from the initial discovery of the bodies along Gilgo Beach to the shocking arrest of Rex Heuermann. This case has taken us through years of frustration, countless theories, and a final breakthrough that many thought would never come. It's a story of horror, mystery, and the relentless pursuit of justice. As the legal wheels continue to turn and more details emerge, one thing is certain: this case is far from over. The truth may be even stranger than we can imagine, with more twists and turns likely to come as the trial unfolds. The Gilgo Beach murders have captivated the nation for over a decade, and the story isn't done yet. If you've been following along and want to stay updated on the latest developments, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave your thoughts in the comments. What do you think will happen next? And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss any updates on this and other true crime stories. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more.